how could teachers teach kids to remove the fear of managing money?
You know what? I thought a lot about this. It's kind of a difficult question because for several reasons why I think this is a little difficult. While you're teaching younger students what money is, it's easy to teach them how to count it and identify it and add and subtract. That's easy because they're excited about it. However, you don't really know about money and how things actually start at home. So for example, like a teacher has no real idea like how a family deals with their money. They may be a family that whatever their child asks for, they get. Or there might be really big struggles at home and you don't understand and they have limited resources. So you don't want to hurt their feelings, right? So it's a very difficult question with younger kids. Some kids get allowance. Some kids, it's part of their everyday life. Like for example, with my kids, they don't get an allowance. However, they're expected to do specific chores and then they can use the money to go to the movies. Mm-hmm. So that one is hard for lower elementary, I would say. Also, parents can be long-term savers. They could be great at that. And you could have other ones that live month to month and you don't know their stress. You don't know when we say, oh, we got a new baseball bat and someone else is like, oh man, I've been waiting for a baseball bat. So I think for lower elementary, it's kind of hard. It would be really cool if they had a curriculum that we could use for lower elementary kids where it would make them feel comfortable and not feel, as you were saying, nervous about managing their money, but also giving them an understanding that there is a positive route to take.
I noticed that piggy banks are wonderful for me. My mother told me the system of dividing up money first. And I put those two together of envelopes and pigs. And sure enough, out came bunnies, 3 of them.
That's wonderful, Mike. Mommy's excited to share something with you that you inspired. So
I also made jars for my money.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool. Wow, look at that.
They're Star Wars themed because I love Star Wars.
Star Wars is cool. Is that Yoda on it?
Yeah, it's Yoda because he has wisdom, and one time is kind of like saving, and that's having wisdom.
I think that's fantastic, Omni. Wow,
and
good for you.
And it was really noticeable on 9/11. Well, they came to learn that it's the human heart. When the human heart is activated, it's the strongest magnetic force anywhere. They now know that the human mind's magnetic force is 2 feet. The magnetic force of your heart goes for 8 miles, and that's only because they don't have anything to measure it longer than 8 miles, and they know it goes farther than 8 miles. So, mom entrepreneurs, fellow entrepreneurs, because that's me, follow your heart 100% all along the way, because that will pull and draw everything to support you, even though you don't know how it's going to work out. I always say, I'm always crunching my head and I got this nice little crease here. Well, that's my third eye because Julie, the financial planner, wants to know, how is that even going to come into form, right? And I'm like, urgh! Like I can always tell, like, and I'll get that pressure right around my third eye, right? And it's because we have to detach from the how it shows up. Your job is to say, oh, my heart really giggles to go do this. I always tell people, follow your giggle. Which one makes you giggle more? If you're trying to decide between 2 things, which one makes you giggle more? Because that's in your heart. And if you're contemplating, sure sign you're in your head, which means you're only going to attract anything that's within 2 feet of you. Or would you like to attract anything that's 8+ miles from you, right? Follow your heart. It is the best. And there's so much research on this. Greg Braden talks.
Whenever you're alone, remind yourself that God sent everyone else away so that there is only you and him. By the poet Rumi. I read that every day, probably 10 times a day when I would get really lonely. And that's why the whole trail was more spiritual than anything, because I'm like, I have to be alone right now. This is the lesson I need to learn. And sometimes that is the lesson. Like, are you comfortable being alone? Inherently.
Then you come out of that judgment place. You come more deeper in the body. You come more to the heart. And because the mind takes direction from the heart.
Mm-hmm.
But the mind always wants to figure something out.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to let it be in that place of figuring something out. But you don't have to be in charge of that. Just go to your heart. And, you know, your heart can tell your mind what to do. Think of your heart as the grandmother, the revered grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
And the mind is like the soldier. I got to do this. I got to protect the family. I got to do this. I got to be the warrior. I got to figure this out. Fine. That's your character. But take your directive from the grandmother. Because the grandmother is the only one that soldier is going to stop for.
Hours. And I always told my clients, you can't take your body from the sedentary 8-hour position to loading it with 300 pounds because you want to go to a class where you feel like you need to power lift. Your body has to be ready for that change. So the way we move all day really matters in making sure that we're setting ourselves up for success when we want to do the weekend warrior.
It was developed by Moshe Feldenkrais, this amazing person I stumbled upon at the chiropractor's office. And he was an engineer and a martial artist and a scientist, and had injured himself. And because of his background in movement, he found a way to rehabilitate himself through using movement. So that's kind of how the method began. But his aim was to help people use movement to be able to do what you want in life. And the name of what he did, he called awareness through movement. Not awareness of movement, not movement awareness, but awareness through movement. So he was already looking at this idea of how do you pay attention to yourself as you move, and how will that bring you greater awareness? And he felt that that awareness would allow us to begin to learn how to do what we want. So that was his aim. And over, the course of the last 30 years, I've worked with, thousands of people, and it's been really wonderful. But as I continued my studies, I started to feel like I needed to fill in gaps. And one of those gaps was, this emotional component.
There's so much more. And yet we're not taught to look inside. And then we have this belief system, this narrative that it's dangerous or it's scary to look inside. Or what will I see? Will I like it? Will it be messy? Will it be, uncomfortable? And yet it is probably the most beautiful, extraordinary thing. It's the butterfly. It's talking to the little, to the caterpillar in the caterpillar soup in the chrysalis thing. It's okay. You're gonna transform into something amazing. You haven't been here yet, but it's gonna happen.
Living a hermetic lifestyle and the lineage of King Solomon, of which I'm a spiritual guide in, that it is the practice of a path of living and breathing a hermetic path. And the daily rituals that you are handed down, if you choose to become an initiate and an adept in this lineage, are practices that you could do every day and that are meant to be built upon, so that everyone has the capability to grow, learn, and progress, as we say. And so my whole job as a guide is really to do what we call to teach people how to fish, so to speak. I don't want people to be dependent on me. Here are the tools so you too can become a master, and please even surpass me. That would, because everyone is capable. Just like Jesus said, everything I can do, you can do and more. And as a master of light, that is truly his role here, was to teach us that we could actually be such level of healer, such level of manifester, such a compassionate force of love in this universe.
And so it's all about how we control our energy and stay in this place of coherence. The research shows that if we do that for 3 minutes a day, that little exercise that I taught you, it will last for 6 hours. And if you do it every day, it lasts more and more and more. And then you're manifesting the things that you desire in your life, as opposed to, it's not like those other things are not going to be happening. The war will keep happening, or the next one, or, like those things are going to continue to keep happening. But the question is how are you directing your energy? Because the thoughts and the words and the feelings that you have on a daily basis create your reality. And are you wanting to attract that? Think about what goes through your mind or what comes out of your mouth, whether it's politics or money or opinions or judgments. Like, is that what you want to attract more to yourself?
Absolutely.
Well, that's why the third step in my process in my book, Awaken Your Wealth, is it's a pivot point. It's choosing to change. Because we can have an experience and we can either choose to go down that old story that we've always gone down, or you could just say, that's interesting, but I need to go this direction.
We don't have to settle for where we're at. So going back to the law of attraction, here we go again. You know, the only thing that's keeping us from manifesting what we want out there is ourself. You know, if you believe in grace, which I do, and I believe that grace is flowing to us all the time. The problem is we are not the best receivers, you know, and the thing that keeps us separate from our divinity is the same thing that keeps us separate from the things that we want in the world, because it really is about our emotions and our thoughts and our deep-seated beliefs that are all creating vibrations of their own. So one of the
economic crisis worldwide, and I developed chronic fatigue syndrome. I didn't have energy to even get out of bed. And I know if any of you are facing financial situations personally in your business, I know how it felt to have a foreclosure notice on my front door. So you're not alone. I want you to realize that your worth is not never equal. You're more like precious and priceless. So if any circumstances that you lost your job or you lost your business, I got laid off 4 times throughout my business career. And I built businesses and I failed a couple times, like the real estate business crashed. And I only succeeded at my second try at the home-based brand business, the personal franchise business, I'm calling it right now. And that's because none of what you experienced or what your skill set or expertise have been lost. You build upon that. You never know when you utilize it down the road. It's kind of like the universe or God, you believe that is guiding you to becoming more of who you are and on the right path. And that's when I realized, after crash to the ground, like I couldn't even get up, I'm like, you have that voice. I know you do.
Consciousness that says, I'm just gonna follow my heart no matter what. Then there is another goddess, and actually it's 3 in 1, but it's the goddess Persephone, and she's from Greek mythology. I'm saying 3 in 1 because in this story of Persephone, her mother Demeter, and there is another goddess which is the wise woman, elderly woman, Hecate. The 3 are really intertwined in this story. It's almost like each represent one aspect of one particular consciousness. But what happens to Persephone? And I feel this is a very relatable story and character because she's adopted into the underworld, presumably against her wishes. I'm saying presumably because if we go deep into the scholar research of this myth, you know, we can start to see how the myth began to be fixed in a particular tone, putting Persephone as this victim. And so I'm just gonna say there's more to that.
My original plan was to be a neuropsychologist. So I love all things brain related. And I use all of that information and years, decades really, of academia and personal experience and life itself to combine in a program that helps people have joy and confidence in the kitchen and beyond. Because I know that when you can have joy and confidence with one thing, that's gonna transmute out into other areas of your life. And you just have to start with one thing. And for me, I started with food because it was one thing that I could control. And I'm a chronic illness warrior. I was born with something called Vater syndrome. That's an acronym for a bunch of internal stuff that was wrong, organ-wise, neck down. And I actually didn't eat by mouth till I was almost 4 years old. And when I started to eat by mouth, I fell in love. And food became my avenue to normalcy, health, connection, passion, and joy. And I pretty much haven't stopped eating and cooking.
I used to say I have these different callings. I have these different platforms. I believe 150,000% I am called to be an editor. It is my joy. It turns me on and revs my engine to bring a story that is locked inside of someone out in a polished manner. And I've worked corporate, I've worked personal, I've worked self-publishing, I've worked with publishing houses, and all of these things it bubbles out of me. And the thing that I love is when a client comes back because they are so appreciative of the way that I handle them through the book birthing process. And I've been called a book midwife, and I love that. So the way that it all ties back into motherhood, and I'll tell you something funny. When I was in college getting my degree in music composition, I named my my college recital. You have to do a recital before you can graduate. I named my recital Scenes from a Womb. And I did this.